So, picture this, you're all alone in a world that just goes on forever. You're creating all this stuff, putting your heart into it, but nobody's around to see any of it. And then this question starts bugging you, just kinda stuck in your head, spinning around, like it's gonna be there forever. You know, if you stop and think about everything we've been through, it's kinda wild. When you really think about it, there's this huge void, like nothing really makes that much sense. And that's honestly pretty overwhelming. I spent 42 hours on this, pouring my heart into it, and honestly, it turned out amazing. But the thing is, it's just gonna sit here, unseen by anyone. It's kinda funny how life works out, right? You put in all this effort, and sometimes it's just for nothing. So in Minecraft, and I think this is kinda true in life too, you've got the freedom to build whatever you want. But at the same time, you know, you can't help but feel this weight of being alone, this loneliness that just settles in. We're always building stuff, creating, putting in a ton of effort. But the question that's always on my mind is, what's the point of doing all this in a world that's so huge and honestly, most of the time doesn't even care? You know what I'm really into right now? There's this philosopher who said that even when things seem tough, like we're constantly pushing a boulder up a mountain, we gotta find the positive side. Because, honestly, it's in those daily struggles, you know, pushing our own boulder, that we actually find meaning in everything, even when it feels like it doesn't make sense. You know, having the freedom to do whatever you want is awesome, but it's also kinda scary. I mean, with all the options out there, you've got to make some tough choices, and that can be really overwhelming. Plus, you've got to own up to the consequences of what you decide, which can be pretty daunting. And let's be real, not knowing what's gonna happen next can be super unsettling. You know, the more we explore our own minds, the creepier it gets. It's like, our biggest fears and the things we want most are basically just mirrors of the weird stuff going on inside our own heads. So we're just gonna keep building, crafting, and creating, even though we're not really sure what's gonna happen, and that's kinda what makes it so amazing, you know, it just shows how hopeful and resilient we can be as humans. So we've got this huge open space in front of us, just waiting for us to make our mark and bring our ideas to life. It's pretty amazing to think about all the possibilities that are out there, and what we can create when we let our imaginations run wild. So I was thinking, have you ever heard of this philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre? He's got this idea called existentialism, and basically it says that we're stuck with the freedom to make our own choices. Which sounds kinda cool, but it also means we've got no one to blame but ourselves for the decisions we make. We've got to own up to them, you know? You know, I was just thinking, have you ever felt like the universe just doesn't care about what's going on with us? Like, it's just doing its own thing, and we're just here trying to figure stuff out. That's kinda what Albert Camus was talking about with his whole absurdism thing. He's saying that, yeah, the universe might not have a plan for us, but that's okay. It's up to us to make our own meaning, find our own purpose, and just be happy with what we've got. You know, when you really think about it, being human is pretty wild. We're all just trying to figure ourselves out, you know? It's like, we've got all these emotions, desires, and fears all mixed together, and it's a constant puzzle we're trying to piece together. So as we're trying to figure out who we really are, we've got to face the fact that there's gonna be some empty spaces inside us, and we need to come out the other side with a better idea of what makes us tick, what we're actually trying to achieve, and where we're headed in life. You know, the choices we make can be super tough, but they're really what make us who we are, and they help us figure out our path in life. And honestly, making those choices is what can finally give us some clarity and freedom from all the unknowns that can be kinda weighing us down. You know, when you've got a lot of power, you've got to use it wisely. It's a big weight to carry, and you've got to be humble about it, and remember that everything you do can affect others. So we're standing here, staring into this huge unknown, and it's pretty intimidating. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff we don't know, and it's up to us to figure it out using what we've learned, what we've been through, and just our general know-how. Have you ever thought about how crazy our minds can be? They're like these super complicated mazes, with loads of twists and turns, and it's totally up to us to figure them out. We've got to find a way to get past all the dark stuff and get to a better place. So we're on this pretty cool journey, figuring out who we are and what makes us tick. It's like we're searching for these hidden gems inside ourselves, trying to understand what's really going on in our hearts, and coming out on top in the end. I was just thinking, life is kinda like a big song, right? It's got its ups and downs, and it's always changing, but somehow it all comes together to create this pretty cool melody. There are gonna be some off notes here and there, but then you've also got these amazing moments that just fit perfectly together. I was just thinking, life is kinda like a big dance, right? It's got its perfect moments, but also its fair share of trips and stumbles. One minute you're gliding along, feeling pretty smooth, and the next, you're totally off beat. But that's what makes it so interesting, I guess. I think our lives are kinda like a big tapestry, with all these different moments and experiences woven together. It's pretty cool, but also really complicated, and it's always changing. There are gonna be some amazing times, and some tough ones too, like, we'll have our wins and our losses, our happy moments and our sad ones. I was just thinking, time is kinda like a river, right? It's always moving, always changing, and it's what takes us on this journey through life. It shapes who we are, and in the end, it's what really defines us. I was thinking, our lives are kinda like a mountain, right? It's all ups and downs, with some tough spots and some amazing views. Everything's always changing, and there are challenges and opportunities all over the place. I was thinking, our soul is kinda like a garden, right? It's this crazy complex place that's always changing, and it's got its ups and downs. There are these gorgeous flowers that bloom, but then there are also these weeds that pop up, and it's just this mix of really beautiful stuff and some not so beautiful stuff all mixed together. I was thinking, our minds are kinda like cities, right? They're super complex, always changing, with these huge highs and lows. Imagine a metropolis with towering skyscrapers, but also run-down neighborhoods. That's basically what's going on in our heads. So I think figuring out who we are is something that takes our whole lives, It's like this long road with ups and downs, and it's always changing direction, but the idea is that it eventually helps us find out what makes us, us. I've been thinking, our lives are basically one big adventure, right? We're all just trying to navigate through this crazy thing called life, and it's full of ups and downs. There are gonna be times when we face some tough challenges, but also some amazing opportunities. We're gonna win some, we're gonna lose some, but that's all just part of the ride. When I'm playing Minecraft, it's kinda like looking in a mirror. It shows us this whole other world that's all about exploring, finding new things, and the possibilities just seem endless. Playing Minecraft is kinda like it's this middle ground between what's going on in our heads and the real world. It connects our imagination to actual reality. Playing Minecraft is kinda like having our own little garden, where we can grow and learn and get better at stuff. It's a place where we can develop our skills and just let our creativity run wild. When you're playing Minecraft, it's like the whole game just turns into this amazing city where anything can happen. It's all about using your imagination, dreaming big, and just seeing what's possible. I mean, you've got the freedom to build whatever you want, create these insane structures, and explore without any limits. It's pretty cool. So our Minecraft adventure basically turns into this super personal journey. It really makes you think a lot, helps you figure out stuff about yourself, and grow as a person. You learn, adapt to whatever, and end up changing so much. Your journey in Minecraft turns into this massive adventure, you know. It's one of those epic trips where creativity, imagination, and possibilities are just endless. You can build, create, and explore pretty much anything that comes to mind, with no limits whatsoever. You know, when you think about Minecraft, it's like looking at yourself in a mirror. You see a reflection of what you're into, what you love. It's this amazing world with so much to discover and endless possibilities. So, I think what's really cool about Minecraft is that it becomes this bridge, you know? It's like the connection between what's going on in our heads and the real world. It's like the thread that ties our imagination to reality. And also, it's this link between how we feel and who we actually are. So yeah, that's basically how our journey goes, both in Minecraft and in real life. It just keeps moving forward. It's like this never-ending path of discovery, growth, and improvement, where we can build, create, and explore whatever we want, with no limits whatsoever. You know, playing Minecraft is kinda like life, right? It's this crazy journey where you can just let your imagination run wild. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You can build, create, and explore whatever you want, with no limits holding you back. You know, when you jump into Minecraft, it's kinda like looking in a mirror, right? I mean, you see a bit of yourself in there. It's this amazing world where there's always something new to discover and the possibilities are just endless. So we're just gonna keep moving forward on this adventure, both in Minecraft and in real life. We've got endless possibilities, creativity and imagination are our thing, and we know we can build, create, and explore without any limits holding us back.